Joomla 4.0, the new publishing workflow, which hopefully comes into Joomla 4.0. My name is Benjamin, and
I'm Yannick.
And Yannick implement this workflow in a Google Summer of Code project. Does someone not know what Google Summer of Code is? Do you know it? Okay. Can give 1-2 pointers what you did Google Summer of Code. What was for you, first?
For me, that was a project from Google that inspires me to create a very complex component that probably will be in the core of Joomla 4.0. So for me, that was the chance to be part of Joomla community.
Yeah. So in fact, we were 1 student and up to 5 mentors, and we try to implement a publishing workflow. And the question is, for one, what is a workflow and what is a current workflow? Who knows the current workflow in Joomla? Yeah. Yeah, you decide. You can.
Well, I think the only workflow that we have is that a user can submit an article that has to be reviewed and then it's published, and that workflow works fine. Unfortunately, only on the first run, and if something is modified, then you don't have to work for it.
Exactly. So at the moment, we have publish and unpublish, and that's it, and trashed. That's it. So we have no real workflow in the sense of a workflow. I have to click. Yeah. So perhaps you can say something.
Okay, so the current workflow looks like someone creates the item, and then there's some persons that could change that state from unpublished to published. But the thing is, everyone could do that. I mean, everyone could change the state of unpublished to published. So we do not control that. Who do that?
If you have the access right for changing status, but you cannot define who can change now, who can change later. If you have the access right for an article, you can change it, independent where you are, who you are, when you are. So the question was, is this enough? And for us, the answer was no, it's not enough. We need more. If we're working with a team, for example, we want to implement something like that. So someone submits an article and we have to review it, spell checking, adding image, approving, or something like that. We want and not only publish and unpublish. And so we are at the beginning, I had an idea, I want something in Joomla, so I made a concept and run through Google Summer of Code. I heard from it, there are students who need ideas, so I make a proposal. And then our team and Yannick came together, and we are starting with implementing it. So the goal was to use the current workflow from Joomla, the 4 states, and for example, make it possible to rename them in the first step, or add new states, or to make it short, we don't care about the old states, we want everything, we want what we need and not what Joomla tells us. So the question is about the implementation.
So we create components that takes patterns from others, like from categories and custom fields, it works pretty the same. And when you look into it, you could see a pattern that was used to create it.
Yes. So, for example, for categories, we have different categories. We have in banners categories. We have in 2 banners, of course, in context. In articles, you have categories and contexts, but you have only one category component. So we have horizontal components from up to down, and we have vertical and horizon components. And we want a component which can be used by other components. So at the beginning, we implemented only for content, for the article manager, but it's implemented that way that every component can use it if we create some helper files and change it. So the idea is we have, at the moment, we have the items and we have the status, published, unpublished, archived and trashed, which are direct linked to these articles, for example. And the idea is now we took this status, we trashed archived for as information because archived is online. We move this to a new layer, I call it always meta layer, and make a new layer between where we can define everything. So the idea is we create a status, let's say online, and give them a condition. And the condition are published. So we can create different states, let's say online, visible, and on the site, and give them all the conditions published. So every item which has one of the status has the condition published and is published. The same for unpublished and trashed. So we have status with different conditions, and depending on the conditions, the item acts: visible, not visible, trashed. And we will show you after that in the live demonstration. So, okay.
So let's move to
mouse here. Okay. So the first question is, where can you find the implementation in Joomla, or what is the goal where we want to implement it? And you can find it in the articles. So if you go to the articles,
sorry, can you make the font size a little bit bigger?
Yeah, sure.
Then you have to focus. No, it's
okay.
It's not exactly responsive. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Could someone write a pull request, please? Okay. So if you go to the article, we have two new submenu with the workflow. And if you click on it, as you can see, we have one by default, Joomla default. That means with the new workflow engine, we can implement the old Joomla behavior, and it's delivered by default. So if you don't care about workflows, you just ignore it, then you can act like before. We are fully backwards compatible. Means. So we have a new Joomla workflow. But of course we want to create a new one. So let's start with it. And we have different parameters like Joomla default title. The wires on it. With the title, we have description, and we have the old workflow in the new workflow. Means you can publish and unpublish the workflow itself. We could have implemented here different states, but it doesn't make sense. So if you're an extension developer, you can still work with the old one if you need only publish, unpublish, trashed. But if you need more, you can use the new one. Next one is default. Default means it's a backwards compatibility issue, or not issue, but it's a nice to have. You have always one default workflow. That means if you have nothing assigned, like when you migrate from Joomla 3 to Joomla 4, then the default workflow will be used. And at the moment, the Joomla default workflow is the default, but we can change it here. So as I said before, if you don't care about workflows, just ignore it. It works because we have everything set up for you. But if you want more, create a new workflow, set it as default, and save and close. And now you see here different parts. First one, the default star. Second one are states and transitions. We came in the next minutes to this, and information like when created and who created. Let's start with states. States, if you create a new workflow, you get always a published state. So you can start using it. It does not make much sense, but if you now create an article with this workflow, it will be published and on the page. Yeah. And as you can see, here we have also a trigger for default and not default. So let's start. Rename it to online. We want published and let it by default. Okay. So now we have in our workflow a new status online. As you can see, could you go again into the? Yes. As you can see, we have here one big drop down, and then that's this new layer. So the status itself has no condition. Status is just a name. But with this condition, you can say what happened if an item gets this status. So if any item becomes online, at the moment it will be published. But we could decide that it will be unpublished or trashed. So here we define what happens with our item, in our case, with the article, if it becomes online. So publish is okay, so we can stay with it. So let's create some new, so we have at least a few status. So let's have new. The idea here is, one moment. The idea is if someone submits an article, it should be new by default. So we have to change the default value. And now, as you can see, the online is not default anymore, but the new one. That means if we submit an article into this workflow, it will become automatically new. Okay? So now we, of course, need other status like ready to release. Release.
Okay.
And we need it unpublished. And we need untrashed. Trashed. Okay, perfect. So now we have 4 stages. We are starting always with a new one, and then we can change to other one. And here comes the transition. As you can see, perhaps you could click on workflow again here. As you can see, we have here no sub-items because we do not know which transition we want, but if we go to our workflow manage, we get new sub-entries here to manage states and transitions. And transitions in workflow is like an image, and at the moment we implement the states. So we have different points in the image. And now we want to connect them. And the connection are the transitions. So the transition is the going from one state to another. And the idea is that we don't want to connect every state to every state, but we want to define which one we want to connect. So for example, if you can start with one, if we have a new status, or yeah, just prepared some. Okay, yes, for example, if we are ready for a release and we are going online, we need this transition release. So this transition is someone clicking on release, and then the state is changed from ready for release to online. And here we build our image with all the connections we need. And one important part here is the permission tab. So because we have a new permission, one transition. At the moment, as we said before, you have an article and everyone who can change states can publish it or unpublish it. Now we can define who can run this transition. Means we can define a team and one person can run from new to in review, the next can from in review to ready for release, the next can publish it. So you can implement a hierarchy, for example, or you can work as team on one article and you can define who can do when, what, where. So at the moment we are super admin, so it's okay for us to use the global rights. Okay. So could you implement?
Yeah.
So as you can see, at the first step, it's a bit administration effort to implement all the connections, but you have to do this only once, and then you are done. And as you can see, you can name, you can give them the same name for different connections. So if you have new online or what was that, ready for release, and you want to trash it, you call the connection trash. It's the command, but you can also use different names. Are you done? Okay. So you also can make shortcuts. For example, you could, as you can see, we have now a workflow from new to ready to release and ready to release to online. But if you have a super administrator who has the rights to publish this from new, you could do a transition new to online and give it the access rights for super user, for example, only. So now we have implemented our workflow with our transitions and our states. Now the question is, how can we connect this workflow with articles? And the first idea is, okay, when I create an article, I choose which workflow I want to use. It's okay for limited numbers of articles, but normally you have 5-6 workflows, and for different bunches of articles you use the same workflow. So our idea is you go to categories and you can assign workflows to categories. Means we create a new category perhaps. So we create a new category, and as you can see, we have here a new workflow tab, and here we have different workflows. We have the Joomla default, and we have my workflow we created. So we use the my workflow and save. And this assignment means the following: every time an article is created in this category, it will get the workflow my workflow.
Indicates first default states of that work.
Okay, exactly. And then the system looks in the database what is the default state for this workflow, and the article gets this workflow. So if you create now an article, as you can see, we have no states here. As you remember in Joomla 3, here you could publish, unpublish, stuff like that. But now we choose the category. So we choose my category, and that means this article will get the status new from this workflow. So you can save, don't save. Could it go again? It's in the article. So means we have my category, and now it gets the status new. And here we see the transitions we are allowed to execute. So if we have no transition, there would be no drop down. There would just be the status. But now we could trash it, or we could move it to review. And as you can see, when we execute this, it's still unpublished. So let's review it. And as you can see the list, now we are ready to release. And as you can see, it's not very comfortable to go always in the article and change it. So we implement a little functionality here. You click on the status, you see unpublished. You have the status here, and you have the same drop down, and now you can release it with one click, and it's online. So if you have set up one time your workflow, it's automatic. You just go to the list, click on the button, click what you want to do, and change, and you have your own workflow. And as you can see, it's the behavior like before. When it's trashed, it's not visible, and you have to search for it. Yep. Any questions so far? Yes?
I think this is extremely cool, and we've been waiting for, at least I've been over here for a long time, but being a user, I see a lot of things that I'm missing, and that's not meant as a criticism as such, because there's limited time.
We see too.
I can see that things could be easily added if there are appropriate triggers for plugins.
There are.
Okay,
The
so
plugins.
stuff like if the status changes, notify users, and stuff like that.
We have a slide for it, but I said now we are implementing a plugin at the moment, which will perhaps delivered with the core, which do this. So you can publish it, the plugin, and then all user which get access to a transition for the new status, or we have to look into it, what parameters we deliver, but something like that people get notified when they can change status.
Yeah, that's cool, because you could email or publish on Slack or Clip or whatever, something.
So
as long as there's a plugin mechanism, there is.
It's a default Joomla behavior.
Yeah.
So you have all the triggers from Joomla are available.
Okay, and a second remark, which is probably very much into the future or past. Could this be backported to 3.8 or the 3-point series?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
And yes. But before you do it, you could help us with improve it. Okay. I guess back to the slides. Okay. Yes. Next steps. The question is, what comes next? And as we get an alpha, first alpha now, we have to implement our problem at the moment is that this workflow is developed beside Joomla, and we have always pull the new Joomla stuff, fix some breaks. If there are some, I heard there could be some breaks, so we fix them and try to be in sync with Joomla 4. That one time we can say, okay, now we are done, we can make a pull request, and with one click can implement it. We also need code reviews. We are only, as you can see, we are 5 mentors and Yannick, 2 less people for a proper code review. So if you like code reviews, you're welcome. We have after that, we have the link. We also need some language reviews at the moment. Yeah, it's very short and we need nice English. We are not native English speakers, so.
You will get them
when you
Yeah.
open the pull request.
Okay. And we have some issues, some open issues we have to fix. And perhaps if you want to test it, you can report it too. And do you want to say?
Okay, we are now,
Have to
now implementing cool features. So as we speak, notification plugin. Notification plugin.
Loudest.
No.
Okay, so notification plugin seems to be email notification by changing the states, like we mentioned before. Batch processing, we want to create a complex way to run more than one transition on the articles.
And we perhaps with the batch we can change from one workflow to the other. That's not possible at the moment because we need a mapping, but we have some ideas we could solve this with the batch processing. So super administrator, for example, can change within workflows. So if there's we will look into it if it makes sense. We have ideas. Let's see.
Yeah, disrupting ACL. We currently, when some item gets states and on what you can run the transition, there's everyone could edit that item. So we want to create a way that only people who can run the transition could edit that item. So and
slide before change.
you have to change.
So then okay, it's okay. Number 6. Okay. Yeah, for example here, at the moment, this person who review can change the article at that state because we have this state. So the next idea is to implement this edit permission if you use the new workflow related to the workflow itself, to the status of the workflow. But we have to speak with some people like Alain, I guess, because we will break a lot of stuff with this, and we need a really safe way to do this. And it was too much effort to do it in this Google Sum of Code project.
And graphical overview. We want to implement the diagram that shows you the connection between the states, how it looks like in the graphical way. So that could be easier for you to understand what the main idea of workflow is. So that could be cool.
Yeah, we have some first tests. As you can see, it's very IT-like and not very nice. You can generate first graphs and display them, but we want to improve it. And so perhaps you can go to the article, write to this drop down, click on it, and see the complete workflow for this article. What happens when I change here? Where can I reach? And stuff like that. That are plans for the future, for near future, we hope. If you want to test it, it's very easy. Scan this code, or use this URL, or search for Joomla projects publishing workflow in GitHub. And we have a fully functional Joomla installation in the branch staging. It's important to go to staging, click on clone or download zip, and you have your fully Joomla 4. Not beta at the moment, but soon beta with the workflow in it. And then you can test it. And on the same page, if you find some errors, post it here. Issues, if you have no new ideas, post them here. We would be very happy if we got, when we come home this afternoon, it's full with new ideas, new bug fixes, and stuff like that.
Okay.
Do you have other questions? Yes.
Is there any auditing of the workflow? So let's say we get an in article. Is there a way to know if, say, there were several people that had a similar position area in the workflow, which one actually moved it on? So you usually have an author at the start,
Okay.
and usually with normal articles it changes, but you can change it. Is the workflow able to record who
Not yet.
pressed it? Is that
Not yet.
something that you're thinking of?
It's possible with plugins, or we can implement it. We could perhaps implement it into the history function from Joomla.
That's exactly what I was thinking in history.
Yeah.
The revert vision sort of thing.
So every PR is welcome. Yeah.
It's really nice. Is there did you guys have the idea about conditions? For example, when somebody is, when it's ready to publish, but the article needs at least to have like 500 words. So it's kind of like making conditions, because as I was seeing that, I thought that would be great potential then for plugins. You can
Yeah.
write a plugin
I guess it
with
would be a plugin feature. You can implement it. So if you write a plugin, you can implement it now. There is a trigger where you can use and exit the transition.
And probably in the plugin you can do anything, but there's no UI, so that part is not directly visible in your workflow, and I think that's the crucial part.
Yeah, but you could throw an error message like please insert 500 characters, redirect back to the articles, and it's shown, for example.
Keep that part, but setting the limit or setting, some
the-
submitter needs extra attention, or some submitter is trusted, so he may propagate directly. So yeah, you can hard put anything in plugins.
Yeah, at the moment that's the solution. I'm not sure if we should implement such a complex thing into Joomla itself. Let's speak about it.
Custom fields and some
Yeah,
special rule fields.
you can do it if you can program a bit. You could do it now, and I'm happy at the moment
Oh,
for this situation. So I don't. It's my personal opinion, but I don't see it in the core itself. Okay. Another question?
yeah.
Thank you.